Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to the poem of the day for today, Thursday, October the 2nd, 2025. We have two last Elizabeth Bishop poems that I would like for us to read, and the one from today is called Questions of Travel. It does not come from the Geography 3 collection that we read from earlier, obviously, but I think that you'll hear that it carries with it a lot of the same stylistic characteristics and a lot of the same preoccupations with content in terms of a focus on nature, a focus on the self and how the self interacts with an environment and the power and ability of that environment to transform the individual. So I'm going to read this poem. This one was from, what year was this? I'm struggling to find the year. I think it was 1973. But this is Questions of Travel by Elizabeth Bishop. There are too many waterfalls here. The crowded streams hurry too rapidly down to the sea, and the pressure of so many clouds on the mountain tops makes them spill over the sides in soft slow motion, turning to waterfalls under our very eyes. For if those streaks, those mile-long shiny tear stains aren't waterfalls yet, and in a quick age or so, as ages go here, they probably will be. But if the streams and clouds keep traveling, the mountains look like the hulls of capsized ships, slime-hung and barnacled. Think of the long trip home. Should we have stayed at home and thought of here? Where should we be today? Is it right to be watching strangers in a play in this strangest of theaters? What childishness is it that while there's a breath of life in our bodies, we're determined to rush to see the sun the other way around? The tiniest green hummingbird in the world. To stare at some inexplicable old stonework, inexplicable and impenetrable at any view. Instantly seen and always delightful. Oh, must we dream our dreams and have them too? And have we room for one more folded sunset, still quite warm? But surely it would have been a pity not to have seen the trees along this road, really exaggerated their beauty, not to have seen them gesturing like noble pantomimists robed in pink, not to have had to stop for gas and heard the sad two-noted wooden tune of disparate wooden clogs carelessly clacking over a grease-stained filling station floor. In another country, the clogs would be tested. Each pair would have had an identical pitch. A pity not to have heard the other, less primitive music of the fat brown bird who sings above the broken gasoline pump in a bamboo church of the Jesuit Baroque. 3 towers, 5 silver crosses. Yes, a pity not to have pondered blurredly and inconclusively on what connection can exist for centuries between the crudest wooden footwear and careful and finicky, the whittled fantasies of wooden footwear, and careful and finicky, the whittled fantasies of wooden cages. Never to have studied history in the weak calligraphy of songbirds' cages. And never to have had to listen to rain, so much like politicians' speeches. 2 hours of unrelenting oratory. And then a sudden golden silence, in which the traveler takes a notebook, writes. Is it lack of imagination that makes us come to imagined places, not just stay at home? Or could Pascal have not been entirely right about just sitting quietly in one's room? Continent, city, country, society. The choice is never wide and never free. And here or there, no. Should we have stayed at home, wherever that may be? Okay, so one of the things I really like about this poem is it's kind of a hot take poem in a sense. It's a poem about travel, but our attitudes towards travel, at least within affluent areas of the more common culture, are that you should travel any chance you get to, that traveling makes you more interesting and more cultured and more worldly, that traveling is a sign of being open-minded, of being curious, of being kind of an aesthete. all of those things I think have a little bit of kind of a bourgeoisie bias to them, because simply a lot of people cannot afford travel like that, or their lives are filled with such small conveniences that would need to be covered that it only ever remains a dream for them. It reminds me a little bit of the film Up, with the saving for Paradise Falls, right? With the coins in there. I think I've alluded to this already on the channel. And so there's this skepticism and this disillusionment within this poem that goes against the prevailing notion that travel is a form of escape or a form of restoration, a vacation that people that would lead people to complexity and towards enlightenment. And the speaker begins by describing something you might travel to go see, waterfalls, something that's for many of us distant and exotic and beautiful, and immediately uses words in there like crowded, too hurriedly, compares them to tears, streaks, tear stains, referring to the mountains like capsized ships filled with slime and barnacles. So these things that a lot of people go to visit and send postcards back are, for the speaker at the beginning, not that special. Sources of, again, I think the disillusionment or the dissatisfaction. And then the speaker goes into a series of rhetorical questions that they're asking themselves. One reason I don't like to travel, even not very far, is the long trip home that they talk about, right? It's the same distance and the same time to go there as to come back. But when you're going there, you have some anticipation within your imagination of what your trip is going to be like. On the way home, it's all over and the story is written, even if it was a good trip. There's no excitement or anticipation for what's future. Instead, you just want to get home, really, and get back to your routine in your daily life, which suggests that there's also just kind of a shelf life for the thrill of traveling as well. A series of questions that they ask are, whether this desire we have to go and see things is not somewhat childish and naive, right? Watching players and watching strangers in the strangest of theaters, going to see other people. And it sounds like the speaker saying people are kind of all the same everywhere, right? Why do we have to rush around to see the sun from the other way around? So, you travel to, I don't know, Spain or somewhere that would be far from me. I'm not sure where you are, where you're listening to this, but you're going to see the same sky and the same stars and the same sun, is what the speaker is telling us here. And everything that is, this old stonework and all of these sites that we see are supposed to be determined for us as delightful, right? One of the quotes from this that I really liked and really appreciated, one that kind of sticks with me as a bit of an aha moment, is, "Oh, must we dream our dreams and have them too?" And it's one of those lines like the one I've referred to on here from Prufrock that seems to be it's something that you interpret before you understand it, or it communicates to you before you understand it. Must we dream our dreams and have them too? And I think what's within there that the speaker is suggesting through this rhetorical question is that when we have our dreams, and the things that we wait on in anticipation, the power of them lies actually in our imagination of what it could possibly be. And once we go and do it, not only does it often not live up to our expectation, but it kills some part of ourself that made us creative and interesting. I don't know that I totally agree with this, that the speaker is suggesting or is asking us to think about, but I really like the ambiguity of it, and I like the kind of contrarian position, because it's not something that I've thought about on my own. And this comes back near the end of the poem, after a series of, I think, vivid and well-described imagery about the things that one might see. Yeah, I like the bit about having to listen to the rain and it sounding like unrelenting oratory, even though I like listening to the rain personally, but that's something, again, that you can just do at home. But this thing that the traveler takes down in their notebook, which is it lack of imagination that makes us come to imagined places, not just stay at home? Or could Pascal have been not entirely right about just sitting quietly in one's room? And Blaise Pascal said, or was supposed to have said, that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room. And I find that to be a tad hyperbolic to say that all of humanity's problems come from that, but he's saying this in the, I think, 1670s, 1740s. The year's a little shaky for me, but he's saying it several hundred years ago, and it seems to be something that is only more apropos now. Not just that people can't sit quietly in a room, but that people can't stand idly in line at Chipotle or something like that without needing distraction from their phone. And so there's an anticipation here of the way in which that disenchants the world and atrophies our ability to notice things and to interact with the world in a meaningful way. And the last four lines, then I like this the sonic quality of continent, city, country, society, and the choice is never wide and never free. So that alternating between the hard C and the more sibilant C, back and forth there, it's almost like a travel itself that I think is interesting. And the last question is, should we have stayed home wherever that may be? And so what I think it leaves us with wondering is not really that the speaker is cranky about the inconvenience of traveling or trying to poo-poo other people's experiences, but rather that if travel's an escape from home and home is merely a concept, as they're suggesting here, then you're able to travel essentially anywhere. I've heard someone say that, like, everybody leads a life, but the people who read books read hundreds of lives. And I think that's similar to perhaps what the speaker's expressing at the end of the poem here, that you don't need to escape from a literal home if you have a thoughtful presence and an imagination that allows you to reconstitute home in a series of places. And if you are a person like that, then you never actually travel. You take home with you everywhere. You can find a sense of agreement and belonging and virtuous solitude and presence anywhere that you go. It's an interesting poem because it's kind of has an ironic and distant tone, which is not something, again, that I think someone would be expecting reading about travel. But I really appreciate the ambiguity of the questions, that it's hard to pin down precisely where the speaker is on this, but also, again, just the way that it allows itself to sit in the uncertainty and the disillusionment, and make us question our basic assumptions that we have about what the gifts and benefits of travel are. That's all I'm going to say about this today. Thank you for joining us again, and I wish you all peace.